Hey guys, so I just finished my playthrough of the story mode in Path of Exile 2 for Acts 1 and 3, and I'm going through Cruel right now. And I want to take the time to talk about my build for my Deadeye, as well as my experience going through that story. Now, to start, this build that I'm using right now is one that I made myself, and is by no means perfect. But at the same time, I don't think anybody else really has a perfect build. Like, I don't think anybody has a perfect way of building their characters yet, because we're all still learning how to play the game. But I would say that my build did work for me getting from 1 to 3, and there really wasn't much of an issue outside of one boss, and I'll go into that in just a little bit. But this is my passive skill tree on my Deadeye right now. I am done with the 2 ascendancies, and I have gotten so far my skill tree up to here. So when I started off, I went down these projectile damage nodes, going down all the way down to here. Then I didn't take a detour over here to the left. I went straight down on these nodes all the way down to this area right here, down to stand and deliver. Now, something that we will probably all notice in Path of Exile 2 is that mobs tend to swarm you a lot in this game. And as a result, there's a lot of close range combat, even if you're a ranged character. You're probably going to be kiting them a lot. So I took these close range shot skills in order to make it so that I deal more damage while doing that. And it so far has worked out very well for me. After that, I went down this way and grabbed these 3 attack nodes. Again, I don't really know how well these scale to the end game, but they seem to give me a good bit of damage boost going forward. In general, I'd say the tree is pretty self-explanatory. You really can't mess up too much on the tree compared to Path of Exile 1. You kind of just take damage for the most part and you'll be fine, especially on a ranged character like the Deadeye. So I went down here, took these 3 nodes, and then instead of swinging up to these nodes first, I took a trip back over here and went down into these proj damage nodes. And then after that, I took this 1 value point in blur as well, just to get a little bit of move speed and a little bit of evasion as well. Now, you'll notice that I do have quite a few strength nodes, which I have been slowly but surely swapping back into dex nodes in order to get my requirements for the skill gems that I'm using. But I did end up putting quite a few strength nodes at first because, as I mentioned, surviving is a little bit tough in this game. And one of the few ways to scale your HP in this game is through strength nodes. So that was one of the ways that I got my survivability up as I was going through the story. Now, after that, I went down the tree here and went up to this bow area. And I'm going down this area to the crit damage, went all the way up here, grabbed the additional pierce, and then I went up to here, increase and reduction to projectile speed, also applied damage with bows. Now, I'm not entirely sure how much damage this adds, unfortunately, and the tooltip really isn't too reliable in terms of tooltip damage because I've added increased projectile speed to my lightning arrow and it did not increase the tooltip damage. So I'm just not sure how good this is, but you know, it's a 1-point thing and I just put it there because it did increase my damage, supposedly. Now, after that, I went up here and went down these crit nodes. Now, in my opinion, I don't know if I'm critting enough to really make a difference in terms of crit damage. So perhaps if I were to do this again, I probably would skip all the way up here and go down to the Herald nodes first before I took the crit nodes, because I personally think that this probably would be better since I'm using Herald of Lightning or Herald of Thunder. Yeah, Herald of Thunder. And my plan right now is just to head down this area. And I'm not really going to take these reduced reservations, at least for now. It doesn't seem like they'll be super useful. There really don't seem to be too many auras and heralds and buffs that are super useful right now for my class. Maybe Herald of Ice, we'll see. And then I went down here and grabbed and I'll be grabbing this Coming Calamity node. Now, this one again, we'll see how useful Herald of Ice is. I think I'm going to try using that going forward. But we'll test it out and see. But that is my tree so far. And in terms of the skills that I'm using, I am mainly using Lightning Arrow as my main damage source. And then I'm also using Lightning Rod for AoE as well. Lightning arrow right now, I have martial tempo for attack speed to make it feel better, do more damage. I also have primal armament, sorry, primal armament to do more elemental damage, as well as lightning penetration as well. While I was leveling this up, I used martial tempo, and I believe I used innervate on this skill, which really didn't do all that much, if I'm being honest. So probably a better choice instead of doing innervate would have been grabbing maybe like acceleration for the extra damage for projectile speed that I had, or another one that could have been lightning infusion. But I think lightning infusion is probably better on Herald of Thunder. Herald of Thunder is kind of weird in the way that it works. The skill description doesn't really tell you exactly what's going on, but it is similar to Herald of Thunder in the Path of Exile 1 in the sense that it does add lightning damage to all of your skills. So it does help to have a skill like Lightning Infusion on here. So I have Martial Tempo here, Primal Armament, and Lightning Penetration. And then I'm not going to talk about Rain of Arrows yet. I'll talk about that later. Herald of Thunder is a nice buff to your damage. I have Lightning Infusion and Innervate on this. Personally, I just don't think Innervate procs enough to make this super worth it. But at the same time, there's not really much else you can put onto here. So whenever it does proc, it's nice, but it doesn't really proc all that often. Now, for Lightning Rod, this combined with the Lightning Arrow is going to be our main source of AoE damage. So I put in Magnified Effect, and I added Coursing Current as well when I got it. Honestly, Magnified Effect was kind of by itself fine. And if you really wanted to, I think adding Magnified Effect and Conk Effect would have been a good choice. Just more damage and more AoE. But unfortunately, Conk Effect doesn't add to the tooltip DPS, but I'm pretty sure it does add to the damage. So there's that. So I'm going to move on to Barrage. Honestly, Barrage wasn't very useful leveling up in my build. Maybe if I'd combined it with Snipe earlier on, it would have been. But I just kind of had this because it felt like something I should have. There really isn't too many skills that you're using at once. So there's that. And then Electrocuting Arrow. I find that this one is a mixed bag, to be honest. I really don't like that the only way to launch this onto the boss is by rolling towards the boss. But at the same time, it does provide a good bit of CC when you stack up the electrocution. And you will likely have to add, 2 stacks on the boss. Like, you'll have to put it onto the boss once, and then it'll probably run out before you finish electrocuting it, and you have to put it on there again, even with this persistence gem. So kind of sucks in that sense. And then when I had the ability to get a second Herald or buff, I added Wind Dancer because personally I just didn't see anything else that was super useful, but I forgot that Herald of Ice does exist. So I'm probably going to go back, and once I get another gem to be able to get another one of these supporting skills, grab Herald of Ice instead of Wind Dancer and use Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder to help bolster my damage going forward. It probably would have helped me out with a lot of clear and a lot of damage problems in Act 2. And speaking of which, one of the biggest problems of the bow builds, in my opinion, is your lack of single target. So Act 1 was pretty easy to get through, but Act 2, I had quite a bit of difficulty on the Act boss, and just bosses in general. At the time, I wasn't using Snipe, which in hindsight, after I tried it out, I completely forgot about the skill. I think would have been a nice way to bolster my damage. Now, it's not an amazing skill. It requires you to sit there and channel the attack. And as far as I can tell, there's not really anything that increases channeling time or decreases channeling time right now for your support gems. So I just used this and Window of Opportunity and basically tried to hit that perfect zone, because with the skill Snipe, you have to hit a perfect zone to make it work and do big damage. And how that perfect zone looks is it's kind of like a little bit of like a wind gust around you when it procs. Now, I haven't really tried it without the support gem, making it have a smaller window to hit, but with the support gem on, that hitting that window is kind of tough, and you kind of have to preempt it. You can't actually like react to the animation, and you have to have a mental timer of when to let it go, or else you're not going to hit that perfect window. And it'll give you a very clear visual indicator when you do hit that perfect window. So I'm out here. I'm going to equip the skill right now and show you how it looks when you hit the perfect window for snipe. So you're going to hold it down like this. There we go. Poof. So that didn't hit, right? How did that? There we go. So you can see your character will glow around you when you hit it, but the timing is very tight. You really have to, if you see your character glow like that, that's basically already too late with the support gem. So I would say the mileage may vary with the skill. I didn't use it at all, but with the troubles of single target damage, I think using snipe could be an effective option, especially if you combine it with barrage, right? You hit barrage and then you pop snipe, and then it's like double the damage. So give that a shot if you're having single target damage issues leveling up from 1 to Act 3. And then, you know, let me know how it goes down in the comments below. But the real solve for single target DPS for me was when I got Rain of Arrows, which unfortunately doesn't happen until quite a bit later, into like the 30s, because this is, I think, a higher tier gem that I wasn't able to get until later. Now, Rain of Arrows is pretty dang good for a single target. I have Conk Effect on it. I also have Acceleration to have more projectile speed because my attack scale with projectile speed. And then I also have Close Combat right now because, again, for the most part, you're going to be pretty close to the bosses. Now, before I had Close Combat, I was basically just running with Conk Effect and Acceleration. That was kind of about it. So if you have the third socket, you can get the Close Combat and throw it in there when you have the chance. But this really is the skill for single target. You basically have a boss, pop your Rain of Arrows, and then that'll do a ton of damage to the bosses if they're able to stand still. So normally what I'll do is pop one of these, and then I'll focus on using like my lightning arrow and throwing down these lightning rods and doing damage to the boss, right? And then the moment the arrows stop raining, I'll throw in another one to refresh it. That is my current solution for single target. It's still not burning down the boss as fast as some of the other single target characters and builds, but I think it's really the best that we got, unfortunately. If you're playing a bow build, I really don't see a solution to single target within all the skills that we have so far, and this probably is the best one. Now, I'm not talking about like poison builds, right? This is going to be more of a physical damage build or like an elemental damage build. Poison damage is going to be completely different, and I've heard that poison damage definitely, your mileage may vary there. I haven't heard great things about it. I heard that it kind of scales pretty poorly from what I can tell, or at least early on it's kind of hard to ramp up. So I'm probably going to make that build sometime down the line and see how it goes, but that is basically what I used for my character from Act 1 to 3. Now, the area that I had the most trouble with was, again, the Act 2 boss. I did have very low, very bad equipment at the time, so that really made things tough. I was still using a blue bow and like a quiver I was using from like the beginning of Act 1, so it really wasn't that great. Now, right now, I'm rocking this bow right here that I crafted. I used, I even dropped in a Chaos Orb on this bow. I was hoping to get rid of that grants 4 life for enemy hit, and instead I got rid of attack speed, which kind of sucked big dong, but it is what it is. I added some physical damage runes onto it because it had 2 rune slots. Personally, I'm not entirely sure if the physical damage is better than if I had added lightning damage runes to it. Unfortunately, you can't pull it out to test it out. So I just added those in there to have an increase of physical damage. And this bow has been serving me very, very well. Personally, everything else is kind of garbage. This ring did come in clutch. 98 health is huge. No health, no real super survivey on this one. Some resist on this one, a little bit here. Like, nothing's really that great right now, to be honest. This is not bad. I wish it had health on it, but it is what it is. I'm still using a goddamn blue ring on my, this one. So my gear is still not great. This was a pretty clutch find. Personally, I think amulets have been like some of the hardest things for me to find. So finding this Bloodstone amulet was huge. 60 something life on top of having strength and then giving some resist as well. Energy shield, not great, whatever, but it's pretty good. And then this one added a lot of damage to my build, as well as give me some good sustain as well, with life per enemy killed and mana per enemy killed as well, because this build does eat mana pretty quickly. Any mana sustain is going to be helpful, so you're not going to be eating pots like crazy, which I have had fights where I ran out of potions, ran out of mana potions, and was unable to clear the fight because of that. So having some sort of mana sustain is pretty decent. Speaking of which, I didn't mention this on the stat tree, but I did allocate nodes down here for a hot second. But honestly, I was having limited mileage on my shock, but it does give a little bit of mana rate regeneration. So this could be an area that you could go into. But that is pretty much it for the gear. I didn't slot any runes in here just because, I don't know, like I don't really have a need for it at the moment, and runes are permanent, so I didn't want to stock at something in there and then realize later, oh shoot, this boss is doing crazy X damage. I should slock at some last minute runes in here just to get my resistance up. Which, speaking of which, if we're looking at my character menu, it's not that great. I have 0 chaos, but I have, you know, decent cold and lightning, but almost no fire. And leveling up, I had abysmal garbage resist as well. So basically, whenever I went to a boss that I was like, you know, cold damage or like lightning damage, I would just take the rings from the vendor and just buy it and like, okay, I need lightning damage. All right, grab some of this and then go into the boss and try to kill it that way. And that ended up being all right. But right now, again, in terms of stats, I'm just getting barely enough int for what I need for my skill gems. But then dexterity, strength. Originally, I had a lot more strength, but toned down on it to get more requirements for my skills. But that is about it for my build. Right now, it is working very smoothly. Decent clear, decent single target. It's nothing crazy, but it gets the job done, right? Personally, again, I think in terms of skill tree, it's really kind of hard to mess up skill tree wise. And also for Ascendancy, I plan to go down this side as well. So there's that. But yeah, that about is it for my build. It works. It got the job done. Probably not the best out there, but hey, it worked. So hopefully you guys can use this. And if you guys see any edits that you guys want to make, feel free to do so. I think one of the things that I might edit is eventually I might take out this lightning pen one. We'll see. Because honestly, my build does use lightning damage, but it's not like the only source of damage. So I might grab these and remove them and put them into another better scaling nodes. So yeah, hopefully this video was informative, entertaining, and helpful. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. And as always, hit the sub button to show support. I'm going to be doing a lot more Path of Exile stuff going forward. And if you want to see more of that, be sure to stay tuned. And also, I stream every single night on twitch.tv/MesoXshiru, starting at 10 p.m. PST. These days for Path of Exile, I've been streaming a little bit earlier, to be honest, because I'm just absolutely addicted. But yes, 10 p.m. PST every single night, twitch.tv/MesoXshiru. Hopefully, I get to see you guys there. But if not, hopefully, I'll see you all on the next video. All right, guys. Peace.